My Vampire Brother's Keeper, Chapter 8. A Memory or a Nightmare. I awoke drenched in a cold sweat, and perhaps it was just regular sweat, and I was feeling particularly hot, and I reached with my hand for a glass of water, and I became startled when I felt the glass moved into my embrace. He's reaching for a glass, but then something moves the glass closer. I looked about in the darkness, and I sighed with relief when I recognized Santiago's silhouette, and he sometimes watches me sleep. It is a little creepy since I'm no longer a child. Still, his eerie presence was preferable to dealing with my nightmares by myself. Don't touch her, said Santiago. I'm not touching anything, I said before drinking my water. You were screaming and flaying about while yelling that, said Santiago. I was? I said, rubbing my temple, and it was so painful to remember the nightmare. Was somebody hurting Laura? Asked Santiago, trying to guess at the nature of the nightmare. No, it wasn't Laura. It was a blonde girl, and I was so mad at that the guy was hurting her that I jabbed into his bag with a painting knife. No, that I jabbed into his back the painting knife. And I closed my eyes and I continued to stab the guy until you woke me up. I said, rubbing my temple. Who did you stab again? Asked Santiago. The painter. At least I think he was a painter, I said, rubbing my temple. I remember a canvas and we were in the library. Yes, I think it was a library, but it looked different. So let me see if I understand you correctly. You attacked the painter, asked Santiago, folding his arms. Yes, because he was hurting my nursemaid, I said, stating a fact. It is a dream, I think, perhaps a memory. I am not certain. I did recently remember that I had a blonde maid when I was very little, and I used to call her Baba, like the nursery rhyme Baba Black Sheep, and she sang to me in English a lot, and she might be directly responsible for me being bilingual. Whatever happened to her? Why did Mom fire her? You better ask your mother, said Santiago after a long pause. That is always your answer to everything. I want you to tell me everything, I insisted, sitting up. Santiago tucked me into the bed before returning to roam the house, and he was prone to bouts of insomnia, and it was a wonder how he got any work done the following morning. And I closed my eyes and I attempted to sleep again, and I was starting to see that the leaf butterfly was no longer perched in my curtain. It had flown away. As I was dozing off, I remembered something that Valerio had told me, and he claimed that he had the ability to turn into a little butterfly that resembled a leaf. And maybe the little critter that visited me was Valerio disguised as a butterfly. If this was the case, tomorrow I wasn't to transform into a butterfly in front of me. I just hope he isn't shy about his transformation. My friend Laura always struggles when asked to play the piano in front of strangers, and perhaps she misses the notes on purpose because she wants to abrogate her governess. I wonder if they're already looking for a husband for her. I miss hanging out with her a lot, and I will probably not be able to see her anymore if she gets married and moves with her husband. And husbands are particularly jealous about their pretty young wives. And I doubt I will be allowed to continue being friends with a married woman. I don't know if I'm in love with Laura or not. I care for her like a sister. I don't know if caring for someone is enough to sustain a marriage. I fell asleep after spending an hour or so worrying about a future that might not materialize. And the sun awoke me the following morning, and I found when I saw how high the sun looked, and I must have forgotten to set the alarm. And I languidly sat up, and I was thankful to know that it was only 9:40. And I always felt guilty about waking up past noon. And I bathed and got dressed for work. And I was still running errands for my mother, and Dr. Sierra had apparently refused to have me as an apprentice, and perhaps he wanted me to ask him for a job. And I went down the kitchen to get something to eat, and I got for myself a slice of bread with marmalade and orange juice. And it was then when I remembered that I needed more fruit in my diet, so I took a banana as well. And Baba was always trying to get me to eat fruits and vegetables. Poor Baba. And I wondered what became of her after Mother unceremoniously fired her, I said to myself. Who is Baba? Asked the noisy maids. Your predecessor, I answered. My what? Asked the scholar, remained unfamiliar with the word. The maid who came before you, I explained. Ah, I see. The name is Marisa, by the way, said the maid. I am terrible with names, and it's not as if we interact much for me to bother to remember yours, I said, stating a fact. My apologies, Senor Diaz. I forgot my place, said the maid before departing. This town is so small, and yet there's so many strangers who surround me. And I went to my mother's office, and the conversation immediately stopped when she heard my footsteps approaching, and Liz told me that she was talking about me behind my back. I was wondering, Mom, did you ever ask Dr. Ciaran to let me work in his office? I asked. Mother was silent for a time while she thought of a good lie. I do not know why she bothers to lie to me. I can always tell when she's hiding something or warping the truth. I forgot, said my mother, and she then added after another long pause, and perhaps it is too early to expose you to real work, and if you wish to fool around with your friends for a little longer, I want you to know that you have my permission, and here's a bit of spending money. I eyed the spending money with suspicion. This was so unlike my own miser of a mother, and why was she giving me money? If you don't want the money, I'm more than happy to take it back, said my mother, taking from my fingers the banknote she had just given me. I took the money without asking any more questions, and with nothing better to do, I made my way towards Ignacio's house, and I helped him with his chores in order to be able to fool about sooner. And on the way out, I was happy to see that his sister was coming and with us as well. And she was dressed like a tomboy with her long hair hidden beneath a sun hat. So what happened? Did you shoo away another suitor? I asked, smiling warmly. Something like that, said Laura, giggling. I guess I bored him to tears with my rants about cryptozoology. Yeah, let's go with a lie, said Ignacio, sneering. You threw another tantrum, didn't you? I asked, shaking my head sadly. If you keep acting like a child, Grandma's going to send you to an insane asylum, said Ignacio, turning to face his sister. I'm going to end up in an asylum if Grandma keeps pressuring me to act like a lady, said Laura, and she sighed before folding her arms. That is just not who I am. If they wanted to turn you into a lady, they should have started way earlier, I mused. And you know what they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, completed Laura. Precisely. Now, how do you want to spend these banknotes? I said, holding out my Lego tender. I want to, said Laura, thinking. This is Ambrosio's money. It is for him to decide where to go, said Ignacio. I don't know, nothing comes to mind, I said, rubbing my temple. Truth be told, all I wanted to do was fool about in the river and fool about the river, swimming and gossiping. I didn't want to suggest that activity because I didn't want my friends to consider me boring. And over time, my friendship circle had shrunk, and most had moved away to Havana or Florida, and we had grown so far apart that we no longer bothered to send postcards on Christmas. Laura and Ignacio were Gallegos like me, and we had a roots firmly planted in La Palma. And yes, we went to the city once in a blue moon, but the comfort of the familiar always brought us home. Let's go dancing, suggested Laura. At your house or at a tavern, I asked. Let's go to a restaurant instead, said Laura, and my maid Rosanna has a cousin that works in La Gioconda. The music is nice and they sometimes put on a good show. Will they serve us dressed like this? I said, gesturing to a farmer attires. Huh, good point, but I'm not going back to the house to get changed. And if they dismiss us, we will go to the nearest tavern instead, said Laura. We got inside the carriage, and I found it amusing to see Laura speaking in a deeper voice. And we made it to the Gioconda, and I was surprised and delighted to run into my 4 cousins. And on average, they were 10 years older than me, with Lucius, age 24, being the one closest to my age. And I got teased a lot for stepping out of bounds, and little did they suspect that little did we suspect that La Gioconda was a brothel. And you pay the performance a little something extra for a private show. Naturally, this private show wasn't openly advertised, as prostitution was technically illegal. Well, you are 16, you're old enough to be a man, teased Lucius when he found himself alone with me. And Ignacio and Laura were busy dancing with strangers. I don't know, I said, turning as red as a tomato. Why are you saving yourself for someone special? Asked Lucius, looking at Laura. Oh, I don't know, I said, looking at Laura from head to toe. And the girl was like a sister to me. I get it. Laura is tall, but she isn't a real woman yet, said Lucius, rubbing his thick red mustache. And his curly hair was the same color, and due to his work in the fields, he was as red as a tomato. Is that mulatta over there more your liking? Lucius pointed to one of the performers, and her colorful leotard decorated with feathers left nothing to the imagination. And it was then when I saw something that looked like a herpes wart on her lip. And it could have also been a stick covered in makeup. Regardless, it killed all of the lust out of me. And it is hard to get inspired when you know so much about incurable venereal diseases. She has something on her lip, I said, pointing to her mouth. She does? Said Lucius, finally looking at the performer on the face. Damn, that is a real shame. Thanks for noticing. I almost made a big mistake. Hey, if it isn't the triplet, said cousin Eugenio. And he was raven hair, thick mustache, and thick as a brick, both physically and mentally. Who is the blonde guy that's with them? Asked Lucius, looking in the direction that his brother was pointing to. Who do you think? I said. There is only one blonde guy in all of Cuba. I wouldn't say that is necessarily true, but I can't remember seeing another blonde guy in quite a long time, said Lucius, rubbing his chin. Do you think the doctor knows that his sons kidnapped his patient? I pondered. And why do you think he was taken here against his will? Asked my cousin Jorge. And his brother Julio shrugged his shoulder, and this was all he ever contributed to any conversation. And in this respect, he was quite the background character. And I was like, somebody says something. Maybe they brought the vampire here to feed on one of the entertainers, just Laura coming over to our table. No, you can't be serious, I said, laughing. It is a possibility, said Laura, and we should talk to them just to make certain. Are you really that starved for entertainment? Asked Jorge, raising an eyebrow. Yes, said Laura, stating a fact. And you find it amusing to see a woman get bitten on the neck by a vampire? Asked Jorge. Yes, said Laura, nodding her head. Hish, says, and you wonder why no guy will marry you, said Ignacio, laughing. And we left our table to see about the triplets and their reluctant companion. And it made sense that the doctor would want his kids to befriend Valerio. After all, they had Asian eyes, and they could bond over being treated like outsiders. And just like their name states, the triplets had black Asian eyes. They were tall, slender frames, short cropped hair, and perfect manicured hands. And the idiots like to wear the same outfits in order to confuse and annoy their professors. Although I could always tell one apart from the others. Japhet had a mole under his eye, and the kids were named after Noah's triplets. They have been given Cuban names to help them fit in, and unlike their parents, Japhet, Cam, and Seth have been born in Cuba. They have been part of our play circle until the triplets left to study, and now they no longer had time for anything, not even to scratch their own balls. Hey, Japhet, did you finish your semester already? I asked, squeezing myself between Japhet, Cam, or maybe Sam. In spring, they give you a week off and a double homework to keep you busy, said Japhet with a defeated tone in his voice. Why is Valerio here? I asked. That guilted us into bringing along the dead way, said Cam, or maybe Sam, pointing to Valerio. If you guide me towards the port, I can be out of your life as soon as they set sail, said Valerio before nursing his drink. And I noticed that he didn't really drink anything, rather he wetted his lips to pretend to be drinking. And I was wondering, it has been almost 2 weeks and nobody has come looking for you, said Jorge. Don't you find that odd, said Cam, looking at Valerio with suspicion. These wounds are not self-inflicted, if that is what you're implying, said Valerio wearily. And I have always been too much of a coward to take the easy way out. Then why hasn't anyone come looking for you, insisted Jorge. I gave them the slip in the Everglades, and I then took a boat until I arrived here in the middle of the night, said Valerio. We found you in the river, unconscious and wounded, miles away from the ocean, I said, poking holes into Valerio's life. I flew here in the form of an eagle, a harpy eagle if you would, and I collapsed from exhaustion by the river, explained Valerio. So you can turn into a bird at will, asked Can, narrowing his eyes. Can you turn into a bird right now? Insisted Jorge. There are too many people, said Valerio, shrinking into his seat, and I do not want to be branded a witch and burned at the stake. This is Cuba. Nobody cares to hunt witches in the colonies, scoffed Jorge. So transform away. No, whimpered Valerio, shrinking even further. Let's go find a private room then, and while we're at it, let's get a meal for our pet vampire, said Jaffe, placing his hand upon Valerio's shoulder. And we put our money to get a room and meal for Valerio, and we climbed upstairs to the residential area, and after asking the hostess, he gave us a room and a wench, and we all crammed into the room with our eyes focused on the man of the hour, and Valerio all the while had his eyes staring at the floor, and as of now he was completely incapable of running away from the situation. Hey, wait a minute, I only agreed to one, not a party, said the woman, folding her arms. Relax, you're only gonna be dealing with Blondie over here, said Jorge, pointing to Valerio. I hope you don't mind the audience, we like to watch, said Cal with a wry smile painted on his face. Fine, whatever, let's just get this over with, said the woman, starting to undress. That won't be necessary, just give me your wrist, said Valerio, taking the woman's hand. And he sunctioned the top of her hand, and I was a little disappointed that he had not bitten her neck. Then again, the neck was very close to the jugular. The maiden shifted nervously as her ears acquired a rosy color, and Valerio released the hand, and as he did, a bit of blood slipped down from the side of his mouth. Huh, you're into some freaky things, but if you like my blood, I have plenty of it downstairs right now, said the entertainer, pointing to her reproductive organ. I grimaced in disgust when I realized what she was implying, and Valerio sighed wearily before saying, Well, I bit her. Happy? I don't think you drank enough, said Cal, looking into Valerio's mouth. Your mouth has barely any blood inside of it. You simply gave her a paper cut. It is no wonder you're taking forever to heal. You need to eat better, joked Japet. And we must be really bored if we are encouraging a lunatic to engage in vampirism, said Julio, finally speaking. But wait, the blonde guy is not a real vampire, is he? Asked the entertainer. We don't know yet. He hasn't given us any proof, I said, stating a fact. Now that is a disappointment. I read somewhere that if a real vampire bites you, then you become one, said the entertainer. Why do you want to become a vampire, I asked. 'Cause of the mind control powers, duh. I wouldn't have to deal with lunatics and their voyeuristic friends if I could compel others to do what I want, said the entertainer. And you still have 15 minutes on the clock, by the way. Whether you use it or not, it is not my concern. If you're not going to play with her, then I will, said Ignacio, stepping forward. Seriously, bro? Said Laura, incredulous. Unlike you, baby says I'm not a virgin, said Ignacio. Yeah, right, said Laura, laughing. I will believe it when I see it. God, sis, you are weird, said Ignacio. And can someone get her out of here? I feel weird having my sister watching me, unless if you notice anything off with the entertainer. She seems pretty clean, said Cam. If you say so, said Angel. But make it quick, 'cause I also pay for part of the hour. Angel and Ignacio proceeded to negotiate the terms of engagement, and in the commotion we failed to notice Valerio slipping out of the room. And it took us a while to notice that he was gone, and the triplets left the room in search for their father's patients. And I would have left to find him as well, but I had to keep Laura caught safe, and we sat outside the room for 20 minutes while we waited for Ignacio to finish his sordid business. And I turned my head to peek within, but Laura shook her head. Let's be sure and at least for a little while longer, Ambrosio, begged Laura. All right, I said, turning my gaze. All right, that's the end of that one. Bye-bye.